today on the journey, we're going to dive back into a topic that we've hit on throughout the last year. I think it's the hub. It's where everything starts. And we're going to talk about breeding again. As you guys know, the journey is about making us better, the hounds better, our experience better. And, I think it starts with breeding. It starts with our choices, how we raise the puppies and stuff goes, it just filters on up. So I have been lucky enough to grab a hold of a guy that he writes for Project Upland. He's written numerous articles, and he's got a bunch of titles behind his name, but I'm going to let him tell about himself so I don't butcher it, because some of the stuff I can't even pronounce. But we have Jason Carter from Temperament, Maine with us today. Jason, how's things your way?
Oh, man, it's great.
Yeah?
Where I'm from the Northeast, where it's normally really cold, but it's beautiful out right now. Don't need to go south. The warm temperatures come up to us. So it's been really nice lately. And we're just finishing off with the hunting season. And we're starting to move into, we're out of bird season, moving into start chasing some fur throughout for the next few months. And so before we get back into training season. So things are really well right now. Happy New Year, Heath.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. So last weekend it was -2 here, which is, it gets that way, but it doesn't get that way often. And this weekend, it's 64 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We went from an Arctic freeze and losing power to everybody's running around in T-shirts now. It's like summertime, so hopefully you'll have some of that weather.
We put the fire out front, and we sat around the fire in the sun, and the dogs just kind of cuddled up against the ground, and they were happy as to be. We were all enjoying the weather because we know reality is going to smack us in the face here not long.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're probably in for y'all's winters last till about April.
Yeah, we usually have a bunch of snow. Our largest snow accumulation is March and April.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, tell the listeners, tell us who you are, what you do, and just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Jason Carter. I'm from Temperament, Maine. That's southern Maine. I'm a NAVDA judge, North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. I'm a clinic leader. I'm also a member of the North American Deutsch Cursor Association. It's the German breed club for the German short hair, for DK, NADKC. I'm also a pro trainer at Merry Meeting Kennels, and we do a bunch of training locally here in Maine, and we do a little bit of breeding. We're a small family-run organization, a kennel that we aren't big-time breeders, but we do breed for our next hunting dogs, and that's what we're proud of, and we produce what we believe are really good hunting dogs for serious hunting families.
So, what do you do for a living?
I'm actually a phys ed teacher by trade. Yep. And my side hustle is for sure hunting and
I think we're all that way. I think I work so I can pay for my hobby. Well, it's not a hobby; it's a lifestyle, but it supports my lifestyle. But I have found that the older I've gotten, and I'm getting, that the more work's getting in the way of life. Like, come on, man! I need another week off, or I need to take another trip. So, I need a raise, and I need more vacation. That's for sure. So, at your kennel that you talked about, how many dogs do y'all keep there, and what type of dogs are they?
So we have both. We have two lines. We have the German Shorthair and the DK, which is the German variety of the German Shorthair that is controlled by Germany, and their mission is four-man function. So the DKs are fur-driven, high-drive dogs, where the other is the German Shorthair, which is also a German Shorthair, comparably to the NADKC, which the Deutsch Cursor is German Shorthair in German. So, they're both German Shorthairs, but one is controlled a little tighter than the other. But so we have two lines that go through the kennel that are very high drive dogs that we try to put into really good hunting homes.
Right. And looking at the picture of the DKs, they're a little bit coarser haired, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, every breed, as you know, has varieties, but so I mean, they're designed to do both feather and fur, where a lot of the German Shorthairs are just upland dogs that just chase feather. So it's for us. We do blood tracking in November to track down game. Yeah, and we do rabbit hunting late season.
So when you're saying fur, that's what you're talking about is the hair?
Yeah, blood tracking and chasing hairs.
I got you. So, Jason, how long have you been running? How long have you been fooling with dogs with that type of experience? And what got you into not the hound, but what got you into the dog world?
Yeah, so my grandfather is an old cat hunter. And he chased cats his entire life and brought my father into it. They got into both cat and bear hunting. And then my father went into the military and took on bomb detection. He had one of the first heroin dogs in the country in the Air Force. And then he got out of that and then was given 2 German Shorthairs. He was passionate about hunting. From the get-go, and so he tied into Shorthairs, became a NABDA judge, who's now today a senior judge, clinic leader, and he started the Merry Meeting line. And so I came on probably in my mid to late 20s. I started starting my own breeding and training of professionally training Shorthairs and other breeds. And then I've been training now for about 22 years, and absolutely loving it, and just absolutely obsessed about it. But as a hobby, where like you said, it pays for the playing, right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So you're actually out of the kennel that y'all were running. You actually have your own line that you've started.
Yeah. My father brought in a DK, and he started a line, and then he gave me my first male, and I developed that dog into what I believe was a really good hunting dog, and so I've been breeding that line ever since, and have gotten some good dogs out of it, and have been enjoying that realm. And of course, they help us along the way. I mean, they've been breeding, must be since the early 70s. So they've been breeding a long time in their line. So there's a lot of reputation in the German Shorthairs as far as where they originated. But then I would say I believe it was the late 80s, he got into the DKs and got his first dog, and we've been playing with the DKs ever since. And it's just interesting where he started, and based on this article, I mean, when he started his first dog, it was very, very, very soft German Shorthair. He was given them, and they had definitely some issues, but he started somewhere. And, growing up, he had Weimaraners to start with.
Oh yeah.
a funny story was where he started, which he got away from Weimaraners, but he took our Weimaraner hunting. For us to get our ducks and our duck retrieving, it would have to get the dog wet, but the dog didn't want to get in the water, so he'd have to wade out in the water and put the dog in the water, and once it was wet, it would go get the retrieve on every single retrieve.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started with them, and then he was given 2 Shorthairs, and we've kind of chased that ever since, and he's developed his line to become pretty good. As far as the GSBs go, pretty good line, and his wife, actually, my mother, Patty Carter, has taken over that as the head person as far as breeding goes, and my father's run with the DKs.
Oh, so this is going to lead me to two questions.
Sure.
I want to talk. How did you get into the judging part? And because you're a judge for the German club, and I've had several.
No, not a judge for the German club, just for NAVDA.
Oh, okay. So, but the DKs are coming from the German descent, correct?
Yes.
And do you have to meet a standard to even breed those dogs?
Yeah, that's a great question because So what's very interesting about the NADKC is that they do form and function.
Yep.
So those dogs have to not only meet a certain standard, but they gotta meet that standard and also have, the talent standard for Upland. They have both fur and feather that the dog has to meet, but then it has to also have the structure to support it, which is very important. In NAVDA, it's a testing organization that just requires the dog to meet a certain talent level.
Mm-hmm.
So the NADKC is really, really great organization because every dog that has been stamped for breeding approval has met both standards in talent and in function and in structure.
Right. And are you getting your mates, whether it be male or female, are you getting those stateside, or are you having to go overseas, or how is that working?
For us, we're mostly stateside. We outbreed, we don't line breed, so we're pulling in sires that are side. Not that we wouldn't go overseas for sure if we were connected to somebody, but you get it's when you're breeding, it's who you know, and when you talk to breeders, every breeder, myself included, is a car salesman that's in love with what they have, right? Mm-hmm. We love our dogs. Right. We love what we have, and we think we have the best. So it's interesting when you start as a breeder, start reaching out to folks that have good dogs. Are you talking to your neighbor who lives 3 miles up the road, or you're reaching out to a variety of dogs all over internationally, if possible, to find the right breeding, and that takes some resources. That takes who and, talking to people that maybe not connected to the breeder that knows the breedings. And, it's a real process to get to breed the right dog to the right dog, and in the end, you're trying to breed if you believe your dog is correct and it has everything it needs to breed, both form and function, then you've got to find the matching pair that's going to support that, and there's a lot of information that goes behind making that final decision to either breed or not to breed, which is a tough decision. Yeah,
we're going to get into that in just a second. Sure. Back to the judges. So what got you into judging, and how long have you been doing that?
Yep. My father was for judge for many years. He's my judging number is like 20,659. His is 12.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he's been in a long time, and I just absolutely love NAVDA and what it represents and the people behind in our chapter and all the other chapters. And it was just a natural thing for me to get involved because of what my father did, to get involved in judging and kind of chase that dream. And once I got involved with it and, started meeting people, like-minded people from different chapters across the country, it's been a labor of love ever since.
Yeah. And I think, too, just from some of the articles that I've read that you wrote, you want to better the breed, and, it takes structure, it takes dedication, and the commitment. And I see that from what you're writing, which is what intrigued me to start with. That again, the journey's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Stuff takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. So that's kind of what led me, into some of the stuff that you had wrote for Project Upland. So let's talk about the article and sure. Talk about the breeding. The article was basically how to make a tough decision to not breed your dog, which we all know that's That's a touchy conversation to have, especially with people that you're not close to. And even if you are close to them, it's still, may cause some hard feelings.
Oh man, I can't. That's a narrow balance beam to walk. Mm-hmm. It's a soul searching endeavor to get away from the idea that you're not going to breed your dog.
Yeah.
If you think about any dog, your dog, my dog, what does it do all day long? It just sits there and it watches you and it studies you and it loves on you, and it is ingrained, in every aspect of your life.
Yep.
It's no different than your children, in a lot of aspects. And so when we get to the point where we want our next dog, we believe.
Let me ask you a question before you do that. Yeah, what led you to write this article? Like what was the process? What happened? Did something come up? What led you to it?
Okay, full transparency.
Yeah.
So, oh boy. So I was I'm in a relationship with my girlfriend, and she has I'm not going to say the breed, mm-hmm. but she has a dog that I believe she shouldn't breed to.
Ah.
And yeah, so what happened was I started going down the road of, like I would talk to anybody else. I'm like, well, first of all, you need to understand a number of different things about going into this breeding. What is it that you like about this dog? What is it that you don't like about this dog? Now, I've had 2 years of training this dog. And so I had some background that I had to, try to negotiate, have the conversation with about why to breed or not to breed. And I had some real reservations because we had some hangups in our training, mm-hmm. When it came to retrieving. And there were some temperament issues in the dog where the dog would soften with any level of pressure of training. Mm-hmm. And so I struggled having this conversation with her. I didn't initially have it. I was wondering, like, okay, well, how do I tell her I don't think this dog should breed? You should breed this dog, or let's have a conversation on why you should breed this dog. So the inspiration for the article was this balancing act I was playing of and I'll be honest, both in me and with her, I wasn't sure myself on where if I think she should breed it or shouldn't breed it. So we had lots of conversations around it. And so, yeah, it was a tough conversation to have with her. I mean, once I broached the conversation and I had that response, I backpedaled. I couldn't go backwards fast enough. I dug such a deep hole, and I started having some real feeling. Okay, well, am I right in this conversation? So I started questioning myself a little bit about the breeding, and providing some questions for her and kind of leading, and we guided ourselves into. Eventually, we got into. Yeah, I think we should breed this dog. But the inspiration for the article was based on the idea that I was really struggling trying to convince her that she shouldn't breed the dog initially.
So when you said soften, and this is the trainer part coming out in me, was this a genetic issue or was this a developmental issue?
And that's an important question to ask. And we were bouncing around with that exact question because is it temperament? Is the nervous system genetic in the dog where you're saying, okay, if we breed this dog, we're breeding a problem into another dog that we're hoping will water it out. Mm-hmm. As you and I know, that doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. White and black doesn't make gray as far as breeding goes. You get a certain percentage that are towards the female, certain percentage that are towards the male. And so when we were having that question, that was exactly what we were talking about, was we're like, okay, well, is there a genetic fault in this dog that we want to avoid? And if that's the case, we're not breeding correct and we shouldn't do the breeding. And her stance was, she was convinced that this dog was a genetically sound dog. It was a great hunting dog. It had every aspect, because this was her first dog. She made some training mistakes, and those mistakes influenced where we were at in this training, and it's why she failed in certain aspects of her training. It was based on her. But being in this long enough, I know that we like to take credit for our dog's mistakes, because it's easier for us to say, "Oh, I messed up in my training. It was my fault that the dog didn't get to where it should have been. My next dog, I know more. I'll do better."
But the thing there is, and I see, and I know you and I kind of briefly touched on this. There's nothing to compare to. So, people that have their first dog or two, they don't have that experience with what it should look like or could look like, because that's the only thing they have to go by.
Yeah, there's no numbers underneath them. They don't know. They don't see that pattern of behavior where you're like, okay, wow, that's obviously genetic, and I need to avoid that. So, and it comes down to, the dog gets to relatively around 5 years of age, and they've already believing that they're about to lose that dog, in the next 10 years. I need that dog. I don't want to be absent without that dog. That's my best friend. Mm-hmm. That's my.
Yeah, I think we spend a lifetime trying to replicate stuff that we can't, that it's never going to be the same.
No, you fall in love with this dog, and the dog is your best friend. It watches you. It knows more things about you than you'll ever know about yourself. If you think about a dog, your dog's already at the door before you even realize that you want to go hunting. Your dog's already, you pick up the set of keys. Your dog knows when you're going to work, and your dog knows when you're grabbing the gun and going hunting. It's that dog has nothing to do but to spend time studying you and loving you and being with you. And so you got to understand that level of loyalty is such a treasure for any dog owner. And when the dog gets to about 5 years of age, and you start thinking about there's going to be a time where this dog's not going to be with me anymore, that's a real heart-wrenching thought process. Living with a dog for 15 years, and you guys have your same rituals, your same things that you do every single day, that you depend on the dog. And when the dog's not there, that's hard. That's a hard time. And to avoid that, right around 5 years of age, you start feeling that loss that isn't there yet. And you start thinking about, where am I going to get my next dog? Mm-hmm. And for some folks, they're like, I'm going to breed this dog, and it shouldn't be at 5 years, at 3 years of age. Younger dogs do better when you're whelping litters. Uh-huh. And so these older dogs that are breeding, they don't have guidance from a lot of folks to be like, what, you shouldn't be breeding this dog. It's too old. It doesn't have what you want. You need to start a different narrative. You need to start chase the genetics. If you love the line, you love what you have, there's a breeding pool out there that you can follow. And that's an exciting process too. That a lot of people don't think about, is chasing those genetics and chasing those dogs that are connected to what you have. Maybe what you have isn't exactly what you dreamed of, but we just have, because we fall in love with these dogs, we just have this, it's our fault. We'll take blame for those problems when maybe they're genetic problems that we shouldn't be chasing. And it takes some guidance, and there's a lot of information out there that directs you towards how to breed, but not much that's out there that says you shouldn't breed.
Yeah. Which leads us into, identifying the motivations to breed that dog. Mm-hmm. That was kind of your next go-to. Yeah. So talk about that.
Yeah. For us, for me, I want a hunting dog. I want a dog that's out there ripping and tearing, both in the field, on the water. I want a dog that's biddable, which means I want a dog that's trainable. I want a dog that has the genetic package to support me as a trainer, what avenues I want to go down hunting wise, specific to species. Or for me, it's I like blood tracking deer. I like chasing rabbits. I want a dog that has the fortitude to handle a 10-degree day in January weather in Maine. That's a tough day on the water. I want to be able to. We have in Maine, we have pretty thick, dense brambles and cover that I need a dog that's not cover shy, that's willing to run through the black raspberries and thorns and have the fortitude to push out and find game for me. So I need to have a certain level of temperament in my dog that can handle pretty extreme situations. And that's if I just want to stay local. Our dogs are trained to be able to go out west if I want to go chase pheasants or huns or sharptails. It takes a day or two to get the dogs kind of zeroed in on those game birds. But these dogs can handle all type of north, south, east, west. But it's super important that in my breeding process, in my training process, that I identify those dogs that I want to chase. And if it's the dog that's in my house, fantastic. But there's a lot that goes behind making that decision to breed.
Right. Now, talk a little bit, because I don't think people talk about form. When you talk about form, just kind of give me your foresight on what that means to you.
Yeah, we're talking hips, we're talking elbows, we're talking bite. Are the teeth, do I have the right number of teeth? Are they set right for good retrieving? Is there genetic teeth or bite issues in my line? Is there are the hips tight where I can hunt 13? I mean, I have currently a 13, almost 14, a couple months, 14-year-old dog that's hunting nearly full days. She doesn't have hip issues, where at 10 years of age, the dog is suffering from joint problems.
Right.
There's if you think about a dog that runs through heavy cover, watch a dog run. If the dog looks like it's putting in a lot of effort just to run around, that's usually a structural issue.
Yep.
You can see them; they're heavy footed, and you watch them running around. It's a different movement than a dog that's very nimble and can navigate better. Those dogs last longer than those heavy-footed, heavy, hard. You can see it in the joints that they don't have the suspension, and they don't have that form to do long days in the woods for many, many years. It's going to wear on them in time. And so those if you don't have the right form and the structure to support what you're doing out in the field, you're going to have a dog that's at home a lot. 9, 10 years of age, it has arthritis and it's not doing well. Mm-hmm. Its quality of life goes down. It's our responsibility to make sure that structure is there to support what we're doing, and that the dog has a long hunting life. And that way we can continue to hunt, but we also have a dog that's healthy and happy and pain-free,
Yeah. Yeah. I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. She was asking me about, cause we both have been in the police world. It's easy for me to go to your place and test a dog that's 10, 12, 13, 14 months old. I test a dog. The first thing I test him for is environmental stuff. And now that they've switched over to bear hunting, they're noticing that there is a huge difference in the environmental, like the nerves of the dogs. And they asked me the question, like, when they breed, when people breed these hounds, is this something they're looking at? Are they trying to tighten these nerves up? And I'm like, for me, it's important, but I can't tell you about everybody else. Like, just like you're talking about the form, like the bone, everything, all that stuff's very important to me. And that goes into my decision on breeding. Is a dog put up good? Just like you said, are they nimble? Do they float? That's kind of the thing that I like to see. Yeah, they kind of just float. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those dogs,
They move effortlessly.
yeah,
Yeah.
they last longer. Their endurance is longer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the feet on my dogs. When I say they're not bad, but I've talked a little bit about pigment color. I've got some dogs that have white and pink pads, and I don't like that.
Interesting. Now, are you connecting the white and pink pads to a negative structural issue?
Not structurally, but and that's something that I have talked about. We're going to start paying a little bit more attention to. I wished I could put a color with a trait. You know, if the dog has this color, what traits come out of him? Because we don't, you know, within my breeding, it's mixed up. So I may have a dog that's a high tan. One looks like a purebred Walker dog, and the other one may be a Hounds 57. You just don't know.
Right.
So there's some
and
things.
For us,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, for us, the whiter dogs, the field are connected to more of the field trial, the big running dogs, the ones that get out there 400 or 500 yards on open ground, or more. They need those field trial. But for us up here in the Northeast, those whiter dogs often that are connected to those field trial lines, I mean, those dogs are getting out there too far for our tight covers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So similar to what you're going through.
Yeah, but I want to put a darker pad because the pads, the white and the pink color are soft. I have more foot issues. Not saying that the dogs are lame in the joints. It's their feet take so much longer to get tough, and I can't run them day in and day out like I want. So that's something within my breeding program here that I'm working on. Like I want to fix that.
And do you deal with nails as well, and keeping the nails where they're hard nails that aren't peeling back and breaking?
Correct. Yes.
Exactly.
And the lighter foot dogs seem to have the white nails instead of the thick dark nails.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you're talking about. But
exactly.
I want my dog put upright. I want him to have, like you said, a good gait, a natural, free moving gait. I want things in certain places. But anyway, back to what we were talking about, the environmental thing. I don't know that hound hunters take that stuff. I'm not saying all, because I'm sure there's some out there that do, but overall, I don't know that that's a big issue for them. That maybe that we should look at more so.
Yeah, and I think you should in that aspect of, that temperament is also a learning temperament. Mm-hmm. It's a dog that has the right temperament, a calm mind. If you put it in certain environmental situations, it has a strong enough nervous system where it can think, it's going to learn. Mm-hmm. Where a dog who's concerned or is a little softer and afraid of its environment or of its training, is you got to tap dance around that dog a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I would agree with you in that temperament needs to be looked at. You need to have a dog that can support pressure. Pressure does not necessarily mean punishment, but pressure in that you're putting a certain level of training pressure on that dog, that you're putting in environments that cause that dog some stress. Mm-hmm. And the dog has to think in those environments. And if you don't have a nervous system to support it, you're not going to get the learning you're hoping for. And that training process will be a little bit longer, or if not at all.
Yeah.
So it depends on the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that brought you into your next thing was, how do you know if you should breed your dog? And you've kind of hit on that, but one of the things that you said in your article that sticks out to me is good hunting dogs campaign themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
if you think about, like, we're a part of a testing and a breeding organization with our dogs. Mm-hmm. So in that process, your people are seeing, the talent in the dog. It campaigns itself. And then you got your buddies that are out hunting with you, and they're kicking in your door saying, hey, I want one of these. Well, then maybe you're on the right track. Maybe if you got 10 really good buddies that are kicking in your door saying, hey, I want to hunt over this dog, I want one of these dogs, then that's a good reason, to think about breeding. There's a lot more that goes into it than that, but at least a good dog campaigns itself. You shouldn't really have to advertise. In my opinion, if you're in the hunting world and you have a bunch of hunting friends, and especially if you're in like an organization like NAVDA or the NADKC, people are looking at your dogs, and you won't have to advertise to fill a litter. People, if you mention that you're going to possibly be breeding your dogs, people are going to be, yeah, put me on your list. And good dogs do that. If you have to look for a lot of different buyers and you're not sure if you can fill your list, well, you probably shouldn't be breeding, because those, if you're putting hunting dogs out there for people that are serious hunters, well, you need 10 to 15 really good buyers, and a lot of people get caught up with us because they come in, they're like, yeah, I got the money, I got the resources, I want one of your puppies. Well, well, hold on. How many days did you hunt last year? What level of hunter are you? Are you green? Do you need some help? What supports are you going to need in when we give you this dog? And we really want to keep our dogs close, because we want to know what we have genetically. We want to make sure that these dogs are going to hunting homes, and not only, even if it's somebody that's new to hunting, that's fine, but you need to make sure you're coming every week to our group classes that are specific to those dogs. We're putting a year of training behind those breedings and making sure that those folks are, pushing those dogs where they need to go.
Yeah, and I think that's, that goes back to finding the right home, and it's like you said, it's a marriage. Like you're tied to that person for the life of that dog.
100%. That dog, that person's going to come to you. If you're putting yourself as a breeder in a breeding situation, you put that dog in a home, the first person that person's calling is you. If that dog is hurt, if that dog needs training, if that dog needs anything, that person's coming to you, and you need to know what you're doing. And if you don't, you shouldn't be breeding, because I guarantee, I had someone call me yesterday. Their dog ate some of New Year's chocolates. They're like, oh, what do I do? You're going to be getting phone calls for the life of that dog, and people are going to need guidance from you. And so you really need to know what you're doing.
So Jason, how do we have the conversation when your girlfriend comes to you and says, I want to breed my dog, and you're like, I love you, you're my buddy, like, man, we gonna hunt together, but I can't do this. How do you have that conversation?
Yeah, first of all, you put out the facts. Don't put out your feelings, put out the facts, and then you're patient from there on out, because you got to let them think about it. And first of all, it's not a rush decision. If you feel like you're rushing into, okay, my dog's going to come and eat in the next month, I want to put you shouldn't be breeding at that point, because you haven't done your legwork. It's a rush thing. There's a lot that goes into it. So for her, it was, well, tell me your faults of your dog. It's easy to tell me what you like about your dog. I personally, the dog was a great hunter. The dog, I would put that dog up against my own dogs as far as grouse and woodcock. That dog was phenomenal, had strong pointing. She put a lot of time training into it, but at the same thing, the genetic package in that dog promoted very successful handling of birds in our area, and the dog is just phenomenal. So she had that going for her, but there was a temperament issue where if you put any level of, as long as you stay positive with this dog, the dog would do anything you asked you. The second it thought it had to do anything, then it was no. It's called passive disobedience. The dog just refused. The dog just refused to accept any level of pressure. And normally in the development of a puppy, you kind of tune it to a little. You get it used to a little bit of pressure here and there, and then you you slowly guide it as it gets to a year of age, 2 years of age, in that it can handle that pressure. But this dog's temperament nervous system couldn't handle any level of pressure. And so I put the question of, do you really want to breed this? Oh my I might as well told her kid was the worst kid on the planet, because it went sideways in a hurry.
I bet.
Yep. And but I couldn't morally not say that. I had to start thinking about, which led me to this article. Like, well, how do you navigate this? How do you tell a person that maybe this isn't what you should be breeding? And in the end, we came up with the conclusion that, yeah, you know what? I think genetically the dog is sound. I think we came down to it being a training issue, a exposure issue early on. But, what if it wasn't? What if it's a genetic thing? Well, that's an easy thing to answer. Well, your dog structurally isn't sound, don't breed. Mm-hmm. And you just can't be matter of fact like that to folks, because they're in love with what they have. These are good people with good dogs that just shouldn't be breeding. You know what I'm saying? It's a good person that is wants what they are in love with. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's like our neighbors down the road. Billy and John hunt together. They're good buddies, and Billy's got a decent dog, and John's got a decent dog. So we're buddies, and we hunt. So we're just going to breed those dogs. Which there's probably not a lot of forethought went into that breeding and what's going to come out of it.
Right. And there's and the side of that is, yeah, well, you get a dog and your buddy gets a dog, but then you're going to give the rest of those dogs to people that are depending on your research. They're depending on your genetic packages to be successful in whatever the venues they want to chase. So who are you giving these dogs to, and why are you giving it to them? Mm-hmm. I mean, where are these puppies going? Are they going to pet homes? Are they going, if these are hunting homes, they better be good hunting dogs, and because your neighbor lives 3 miles up the road and your dog went out the front door and bred to your neighbor's dog doesn't mean that that's going to be a good litter. I mean, you need to do your legwork. You need to know what you're doing, and conveniences definitely propels people to breed. I mean, I love my dog. I want my next dog, and this person lives 3 miles up the road. I'm going to breed to it. It's easy, but maybe not the right move. Maybe that dog isn't what you want to breed to. And the ramifications of that can be severe. It could be temperament issues. These dogs could be biting people. These dogs could have real genetic problems where they're putting them down early, or seizures, or there's a lot that goes into breeding a dog that you're responsible for as a breeder. You need to know what you're doing. If you're breeding hip dysplasia and you're breeding other issues, then that's wrong. You shouldn't be breeding. You need to know what you're doing before you make the decision to breed. And it's hard to have that conversation with people. It's not easy. You got to be thoughtful. You got to put out the facts, and you got to be tactful in what you're doing, and be patient. Be patient with them, because they're in love with those animals. Mm-hmm. And they love what they're doing, and they love what they have, and they want to share that with other folks. And there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe they shouldn't. And you just need to slowly give them the facts and kind of lead them in the right direction. And if you have like a good reputation, it's easier to do that because people listen. But if you're in a relationship with that, someone that's not necessarily the right person, you may need to talk to some experts in your breed or in your field that can be heard by those folks,
right,
where they can say, hey, you know what, I understand where you're at, I've been there, but you know what, you shouldn't breed, and this, let me tell you why, and these are the reasons. And then if they can be heard, then you can steer them in the right direction.
Well, and there's a 2-part thing to this one too. So, and right. I feel like when we breed, and I need to do better myself, but it should always be to better that bloodline or that hound.
Yeah.
It should always be to better it, not maintain it,
mm-hmm.
but better it.
Yeah, you're breeding correct to correct. You got a correct dog. It has everything. There's no reason that you need to breed away. Well, every dog, no dog's perfect.
Right.
But, but you fall within the form and function of your breed. There's something to be said that you need to be breeding those dogs because you need to put the genetic pool out there. Those dogs need to be bred.
Mm-hmm.
If people are don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that only very elite people should be breeding their dogs. You just need to be breeding the right genetics and the right temperaments and what those breeds are bred for to the same thing. You need to breed correct to correct. Those genetics need to be put out there. If your pool is shallow, you're running into issues. You can taint those waters real quick. So I think it's super important that breeders are out there and that we have the breeders to support each breed for sure. Don't get me wrong. I think that's important. But if you shouldn't be breeding, then there needs to be some support systems, and there's a lot of breed organizations and testing organizations that will lead people to these answers. But if you're outside of those realms, then it takes a very tactful person to kind of lead you in the right answers.
Yeah, the correct to the correct was the next part of what I was going to ask you, which leads me to the next thing. So, I have a lot of friends, acquaintances in Europe because that's where we get our police dogs from. And in the hound world, like the breedings are so different. The guys that from Europe, most of the guys that I deal with, they do not line breed. You said that earlier that you breed outcross to outcross, basically.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly. Yes.
And then I have some friends in Europe that will only line breed, but it's got to be in the third generation. There can be no dogs the same unless it's 3 generations back.
Because that's where everything shows itself.
Well, yeah. So for you, I want to pick your brain a little bit. When you're breeding, and this goes back to the correct, when you're outcross, for us, like for the hound world, we're looking for a set of traits the same as you. I'm looking for, conformation. Form is a big thing for me. I'm looking for, I'm looking for stamina. I'm looking for a dog that's got a decent nose and that can trail and will stay with that track when it gets hard. And then once he gets that track up and moving, jumped, I want him to have the speed and the endurance and I want to say grit, but now when I say grit, I'm not meaning grab a hold of it and hold on. I mean, he's got the stay power to stay with that animal until it trees or till I can get to him. So I'm looking for a lot of different genetics, and I've had more success line breeding dogs that I've had over the last 20-some years than I've had outcrossing. Now, educate me and help me with what you do and how it works.
So innately, we're looking for hunting dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So we need dogs that have had boots on the ground. We're chasing those genetics that where if we're breeding to a sire, it has enough experience and exposure on the ground that and testing for us and NAVDA and the NADKC that we know that dog both has success and talent to support what we want. We need, like you said, like any hunting dog, we need a strong nose. We need a dog that's cooperative. We need a dog that has drive and desire.
Mm-hmm.
And the desire is a piece that you can see. It's in its talent in the field and in testing, and it's a super important piece that we chase in our dogs. So for us, when we're breeding, they each of these dogs have been put through testing organizations that they get us in the ballpark of what we want. But in the end, we need hunting dogs. We don't want testing dogs. We want dogs that have had success in the field and have proven that they have that desire and drive and that substance, that putty that we play with, enough of it where we want to breed to it. If you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So
if that answers the question.
Yes. What age are you looking at? Because I've got I have known that people are breeding some dogs at, a year and a half, 2 years old. And for me, I've got a female that's 4 years old right now, and I've just finished her out, and I'm just now looking to breed her.
Right. So if you think about, the health of the dog, a younger dog, not a young dog, but a younger, you're talking 3 years of age, those dogs can handle litters medically better than an older 7-year-old dog. So we do push our dogs into that younger 3-4 years of age. You start getting to a year and a half, then I don't know that dog has enough experience put underneath it for you to be like, yeah, that's a breedable dog. Mm-hmm. You've been through all of your testing, likely you've been close to 2 years of age. You're pushing you're done on as far as the young dog proving grounds go, as far as testing goes. But how many? You only have 2 seasons under the dog, if that. And so you breeding under what information would be my question. Do you have enough exposure and experience with that dog to say that should be bred? I don't know. No, I would probably say you don't.
Yeah.
If you have 2 seasons under the dog, then you're starting getting a pattern of behavior. 3 seasons for sure. Right. You're locked in. You know exactly what you have by 3 years of age.
And I think that goes back to
the maturity of the dog and what it's going to be is 4 or 5 years. The dog gets older and settles in. It gets better. But I would say at least right around 3 years of age, you get a pretty good, solid feeling of what the dog's substance is and if it's worth breeding.
And I think that goes back to picking your home for the pup and how much, because what I hunt may not be what, Billy Bob down the road hunts.
Right.
I hunt as much as I possibly can. I mean, my vacations, I take off a couple months a year and spend in the woods, and, not everybody has that opportunity. So a certain person may know more about their dog at that age than others.
Right. So you spent 3 years with that dog, or 2 to 3 years with that dog, running it as much as you run it. You're going to find out what your structural issues are. Mm-hmm. You're going to find out the limitations in your dog, because you're going to push that dog to its limits. And then things are going to start arising and come to the surface that you're like, wow, okay, I thought the dog was fantastic at that, but maybe it isn't holding that track. Maybe it's pulling off a little too soon, or it doesn't have the structure to run all day. It's not. It's getting hurt. It's getting injured a lot. What's going on with that? And so those things arise with exposure and experience. And so I agree with you 100% that 2 to 3 years of age, you get enough information there that you could make a very informed decision if you should breed or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, when you go to breed, do you know the background of, and I know you do hunting wise, but how far back do you do your research? You go 3 generations? Do you try to find out 4 or 5?
Well, whatever the pedigree would support, but it's usually 5 generations. We'll go back. We know the lines, and we know both in Germany for us, in Germany and stateside. We know what those lines produce. The pattern of behavior that we see with specific lines. So we have enough history where we can be like, oh no. You doubled up on that. I don't want to chase that at all. I want to avoid that. That comes with problems. Yes. In breeding, we learn that about dogs is certain lines have temperaments and traits that maybe not conducive to what you want, but that comes with experience.
And how long does it take you to find, so if you breed dog A and B this year, how long does it take you to know that this is not something I want, or I'm getting genetics from 5 generations back?
Yeah, sure. Puppies, a lot of people are looking at the final product, which I think is a mistake. Puppies give most information because they're so raw and they are what they are. So when you're looking at that dog that's under 2 years of age, you're dealing with just genetics. As the older they get, especially after a year of age. The training masks a lot of what the dog is. But if you're looking at a young pup, they are what they are. And you get to see those things right from the get-go. And that's why we like to keep our breedings and our buyers, pretty close to us. So that way we can keep our hands on the pups. Mm-hmm. That's why we provide a year of training with our dogs up to the first level of testing, is because we want those dogs in our hands, so we know what we have, because we're breeding towards our next dogs. Right. We're not big breeders. We're just breeding to trying to create the best hunting dog we can for others, but more along selfishly for ourselves.
I got you. I understand.
Yeah.
So Jason, with what you've wrote, is there anything we've left out or something that you want to highlight or hit on with the tough decisions?
In the end, I don't want to poo-poo people from breeding, to be honest with you. I think it's important that folks remember that, we need those genetics out there. We need those good dogs to be reproducing, so we have those genetics, and we can keep those good lines going no matter what the breed is. A great dog, no matter what you're hunting, is the most amazing thing to hunt behind, and we need to keep supporting one another in that. And with that in mind, as organizations, as this podcast goes, as hunting enthusiasts go, we need to take care of one another and support each other and reach out to one another and be like, hey, I think you need to breed that dog. I know you don't want to, but we need to find reasons for you to do that, or just the opposite. I know you want to breed that dog, but I don't think you should. And we love what we do, and we all love dogs, and it's important that we take care of each other and try to support one another in that. And if your dog is just not what it should be to be bred, well, then go chase those genetics. That is as much fun as being a breeder. There's equally amount of important work that goes into you chasing your next dog and those genetics. And I think that's worthy and honorable in itself, that folks, spending that time and do that piece as well, and educate one another and find resources to keep that going. So if you come in the end, you're not going to breed that dog, that's okay. Because there's excitement and some great things that can happen just chasing the genetics, and that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and I mean, and you said it earlier, we all started somewhere. Like, we weren't breeding. We went and got our dog from somebody. Yep. Our first dog.
Started somewhere. Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I've, I still have some of the bloodline that I had 20 years ago, but that bloodline's watered down. It's not where it was or what it was, and half of that's my fault. And I had to venture out and find something else. And that's what I've done, and I'm trying to establish that now with what I'm doing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's okay that, as disappointing as it was for me, I'm still as happy, like, with the other line of dogs that I've got now. Like, I'm still doing what I love to do, and I'm still catching game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you said, it's not short term; it's long term for me. So,
yeah, and if you think about whatever breed that you're running, if you think about, in the end, is that pool of genetics that you're putting forward in your breedings or not breedings, are you bettering the breed? And that will answer all your questions for you. Yeah. Are you bettering your line? Because in the end, what's going to happen? You're going to have to pull a dog from that pool. Mm-hmm. And so if you're improving that line, you're improving your chances of finding that next great hunting dog.
Yeah. And real quick, because I know we're probably pushing our hour, but so what if you, like, so for me, like I told you that the pads on my dogs are something that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So if you have a dog that is, like, it's what you want, but you want to improve that dog, mm-hmm. Are you going to find the mate for that dog that has that quality, or in this case, it's confirmation? It's not actually confirmation. with me, but are you going to find the dog that has that specifically, or are you looking for overall picture with that to fix it?
Exactly. Well, I mean, if I'm fixing a problem, I better be really specific about what that problem is. And because, a lot of people believe you can fix it in one generation. It may take 9 generations to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So if you're breeding away from a problem, you may want to have some conversations with some breeders and some people that have been in the field a while to figure out how much breeding it's going to take for you to change that, and maybe you shouldn't be breeding that. So you shouldn't. Again, you should be breeding correct to correct and not away from problems. We all have things we like to better, and that's what you should be chasing. But in the end, your dog should be correct if you're going to make the decision to breed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jason, like I said, I really appreciate your knowledge, your time. I've really enjoyed reading your articles. And guys, if you want to read the articles, just go to projectupland.com and you can pull up. They've got a lot of good articles in there. And just because it's not a hound, what we are hunting, doesn't mean you can't take something from it, learn from it, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to better our breed. We're all trying to get the hunting dog that suits us the most. And it doesn't matter what it is, because everybody in most dog breeds are striving for the same thing. So if you guys want to go do that, I'll put a link to it on the show notes. Jason, is there anything else you want to touch on or leave us with?
No, I just like to wish everybody a happy New Year's, and may all the 2023 be all the blessings you ever wish it to be. And get out there, hunt those dogs, and love them up for me. Yeah.
So, Jason, to end every podcast, I leave with a saying, and thank you for helping us teach, train, and definitely learn on breeding.
Thank you, Heath.